Alright, welcome back. Here we go again. Today's video is going to be about forms of linear equations. So we're just going to go through, write some equations of lines, and we're going to talk about three types first. The first one is slope-intercept. You guys know this is y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. The second one is point-slope form. That's y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1, where m is your slope and x1 and y1 are the coordinates of your point. And the third one is standard form. ax plus by is equal to c. A must be positive, and a, b, and c are all integers. You're not going to have any fractions and stuff for standard form. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to be given some information, and we're going to write the equation of lines. Now, sometimes you're only going to be asked to do it in one form. However, sometimes you might be asked to write it in all three forms because you can interchange. You can go from standard form to point slope. You can go from slope intercept to point slope and back and forth and all over the place. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it the easiest possible way. So the way I have it written, A, point slope first, then B, slope intercept, and then C, standard form. If you're told to write it in all three ways, that's probably your best approach. So let's start. The first thing you're going to need to do, no matter what, is have your slope. Now, since we're not given the slope, the other day you learned how to find the slope. We just have to take our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and we're going to end up with 3/5. So that's our slope. So the first thing we're going to do is A. It says point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the equation y minus y1 and you're going to pick a y and an x. Now, it does not matter which point you use. Okay, so just for fun, we're going to pick 1, 2. Why? I have no reason. I just picked it. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug the x1, the y1, and our m, our slope, into point slope form. So we're going to have y minus 2 is equal to our slope of 3/5 times x minus 1. Close your parentheses. Guess what? You're done. That is point slope form. That's the way it is supposed to look. So now what we can do is we can distribute the 3/5 inside the parentheses. That's going to give us y minus 2 is equal to 3/5 x minus 3/5. Now we just need to add 2 to both sides. And then we're going to have y is equal to 3/5 x plus 7/5 after we add the 2 to the right. And look at that. We're done with slope-intercept form. So then finally, the last step is we have to get this into standard form. So to get this in standard form, the first thing I want you to remember is the fact that we are not allowed to have fractions. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our fractions here and see that they both have a denominator of 5. So what we can do is we can take this y equals 3/5 x plus 7/5 and multiply the entire thing by 5. And that's going to change it to 5y is equal to 3x plus 7. Remember, it's ax plus by equals c. So we can bring the 3x to the other side by subtracting 3x from both sides. We're going to have negative 3x plus 5y is equal to 7. Now the last thing you have to remember is a has to be positive. So in order to make a positive, all we have to do is multiply this entire thing by a negative 1, or just switch the sign to make this 3x minus 5y is equal to a negative 7. And now you are in standard form. So on a quiz or a test, if you're given 2 points, honestly, that is the best way to do it. Just start with point slope, distribute, and make it into slope-intercept form, and then finally get rid of any fractions and get it in ax plus by equals c for standard form. So number 2 and 3. We're going to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Okay, so slope-intercept form. Number 2 says that it's got to contain the point 4, negative 2 and is parallel to y equals 2/5 x plus 4. Okay, that's not a big deal because The other day you learned that parallel lines have the same slope. So if the slope of the given line is 2/5, then the slope of the line we're going to write the equation of also needs to be 2/5. Again, you've got a point, you've got a slope. It's easy to just, even though it doesn't tell you to, just write it in point slope form. So we have y plus 2, because it's y minus y1. Remember, minus and negative 2 is going to turn into plus 2, is equal to your slope, 2/5, times x minus 4. Distribute your 2/5. That's going to give you y plus 2 is equal to 2/5 x minus 8/5. And then from there, all we have to do is subtract our 2 from both sides, and that's going to give us y is equal to 2/5 x minus 18/5. And you're done. Number 3 contains the point -1, -5, and is perpendicular to 3x plus 4y is equal to 120. Alright, so you have a little bit of work to do first. First thing we have to do is figure out what the slope of this equation is. So we can just subtract 3x from both sides. 4y is equal to a -3x plus 120. Divide by 4, and you really don't need to go much further to find out that your slope is -3/4. So if the slope of this line is -3/4, perpendicular to -3/4 for this problem is going to be a positive 4/3. Remember, perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. Again, what you want to do is write it in point slope form. Y plus 5 is equal to a slope of 4/3 times x plus 1. Distribute your 4/3, so y plus 5 is equal to 4/3 x plus 4/3. And then we're just going to subtract 5 from both sides, and that's going to give us y is equal to 4/3 x minus 11/3. And you are done. Okay, so that's forms of linear equations and being able to work from slope-intercept to point slope and standard form. Another topic of equations is direct variation. So two variables that show direct variation provide y equals kx, where k cannot be 0. Okay, because k is our constant of variation, and y is said to vary directly with x. So this is what we're going to do here. Y equals kx is the formula that you want to memorize for direct variation. So for example, the variables x and y vary directly. Write the equation that relates the variables, then find y when x is equal to 12, and find x when y is equal to a -10. So, key, it says write the equation. That doesn't mean just find k. You actually have to write the equation. So, direct variation says y is equal to kx. Y is 10 times k, and x is 16. So we just have to divide both sides by 16, and you're going to find that k is equal to 5/8. All we did was solve for k, but you're not done. It says write the equation. So our equation is y equals 5/8 x. That's the equation that relates the variables. So now all you have to do is use your direct variation equation to find the next two parts. It says find y when x is 12. That's just y is equal to 5/8 times 12. So for that part, y is going to equal 15/2. And then the other thing it asks you to do is to find x when y is equal to a -10. So that just means you put -10 into y is equal to 5/8 x. Multiply both sides by 8/5, and you're going to find that x is equal to a -16. Okay, and all you have to do is just make sure you're careful with which variable you're substituting the given information in, and you're good. Last two examples of the notes. It says tell whether the data shows direct variation. If so, write an equation that relates x and y. So remember, y is equal to kx. There's a couple of different ways you can do these. There's a shortcut to it. One of the things you want to do is maybe just pick one example really quick. How about we take 8 and 3, and we want to find k. And k is going to need to be the same for every single one of these sets. So we're just going to say that 3 is equal to k times 8, which is going to tell us that k is equal to 3/8. So if the constant of variation when x is 8 and y is 3 is 3/8, every other set should have the exact same constant of variation. So if you're looking at this already, you could probably tell that that's not going to happen, but I just want to give you an example just to be sure. What happens if we did x and y is 4? So we can just test it with 3/8. We can say y is equal to 3/8 x. Substitute in your 4 for x. Y is equal to 3/8 times 4. And that's going to end up giving us 12/8, which we know is 3/2. And y is not 3/2 when x is 4. So the answer to this is no. Another way you could do it is you can just take a couple of them and just find if k is the same each way by just using your equation. So for number 6, if we give that method a quick try, let's start with the first one. We've got y equals kx. We have 1 is equal to k times a negative 4. So k is equal to negative 1/4. So k for this one is negative 1/4. And we can try it again. We can try it with negative 8 and 2. So we've got 2 is equal to k times a negative 8. Divide both sides by a negative 8, and we're going to get k is equal to negative 1/4. So this is also negative 1/4. And as you can imagine, if you kept on trying it for the rest of them, they would all be negative 1/4 for their constant of variation, which means yes, this is direct variation. So that takes us to the end of our lesson. You know where to find me tomorrow. If you have any questions, be ready to ask them in class. Have a good night.